Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm a professor at the University of California, Irvine campus. Um, I'm trained in both Eastern and Western side of health. On the Western side, got my PhD in biochemistry at UCLA, postdoc fellow at UC San Francisco in biophysics. And I was chairman of biophysics at Johns Hopkins for quite a few years before moving to UC Irvine. I was the dean of the School of Biological Sciences and associate vice chancellor for biomedical affairs. On the eastern side, as a teenager, I started practicing kung fu and then transitioned to mind-body practices of Tai Chi and Qigong for many decades now, and particularly Tai Chi, Chen style Tai Chi. I've been formally designated as the 20th generation heir of Chen style Tai Chi by Grandmaster Chen Lei of the Chen family village. And I'm also trained in acupuncture for physical therapy at the Hong Kong University of Polytechnic University. So I have a laboratory for mind-body signaling and energy research at UC UC Irvine, and I'm also associated with our campus's Susan Samueli Integrative Health Institute. I have served nationally on a number of things. The Secretary of Health and Human Services appointed me to the National Advisory Council on Integrative Health and Medicine, and I'm on the editorial board of the Journal of Integrative and Complementary Medicine, among other things.
So that's a lot of stuff. So can we step by step we can unpack it maybe. So you studied Chen style Tai Chi.
Yes, for many years.
Okay, so we know there's different styles of Tai Chi. So why did you start studying Chen style, and like what is interesting about this particular style? So like what is it?
Okay. According to written history, not according to like movies and things, Tai Chi started 400 years ago in the Chen family village in central China. And it started as martial arts by a retired general who went back, his name was Chen, and went back to the Chen family village. And in the next 200 years, it gradually developed also into a mind-body practice that we know now. And it's named Tai Chi, symbolized by this, this black and white symbol. And the meaning is Tai Chi is the ultimate state of harmony of yin and yang. Yin and yang, like, slow and fast, soft and hard, down and up, and so forth. So the original style of Tai Chi has from the soft comes the hard, from the hard comes the soft in the movements, and within the soft there's hardness, within the hardness there's softness. So it's a very complex system, and you can look at the diagram. It's not like just half black, half white. It's just a swoop. From this to this to this. So that's the original style of Tai Chi, and it's a full body, mind body health type of practice, because our body, of course, has hard bones and soft tissues, and we have tendons, we have ligaments, and we have connective tissues, and so forth. And only 4 generations ago, that was like 20 generations ago. 4 generations ago, Mr. Yang, not the yin and yang, it sounds. Mr. Yang went to the Chen family village and learned this style of mind body practice and martial arts. He went to Beijing to teach, and his followers are the royalty, like the sons of the prince and the kings and so forth. And these people are absolutely not interested in martial arts because they have bodyguards, they have armies, and so forth. So they say, just make me healthy, okay? That will be enough, and I don't want to work up a sweat. I don't have to take off my royal robes and things. So Mr. Yang took away all the hard and fast movements, and what remains is only the soft, slow movements that is known as Yang style Tai Chi. And then he had a number of students by the name of Mr. Sun, Mr. Mr. Hao, Mr. Wu, and so forth. And they also learned from him and had some kind of modifications. And then those are known as like the Sun style Tai Chi, Wu style Tai Chi, Hao style Tai Chi. So in summary, the original and most authentic Tai Chi that really encompasses the yin yang harmony is the Chen style. All the other ones that we know today have only the yin side of things, the soft and so forth. And if you have time, I could explain to you many of the benefits that are unique to the Chen style, to the to the bones, to the joints, and things that will be absent if you just do slow, slow, and slow.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested in that. Like, if you could talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
And by the way, I also trained with the grandmasters, the current grandmasters of the Yang style, Sun style, and all that. So I know all the styles very well. But I spent the last 20 years training with Grandmaster Chen Lei in the Chen style. So, for instance, okay, fast and slow. Every muscle group in our body has slow twitch muscle fibers and fast twitch muscle fibers. They're all intertwined. And of course, the slow twitch muscle fibers are for strength and endurance, and the fast ones are for fast movements. If you train one but not the other, exercise physiologists will tell you that within 10 days, there will be a measurable decrease in function of the ones that you don't. So it's best to train both the fast and the slow to be complete. So the Chen style with its fast and slow, and that's a more complete exercise. Very simple. Another thing that's very important is that Tai Chi is, kind of weight bearing, is actually good for maintaining strong bones in that sense, because at least your lower body is supporting the whole rest of the body and so forth. But nowadays we know that for strong bones, weight bearing exercises are not enough. You need exercises like skipping rope or jumping and things like this that could vibrate the whole skeleton. And the vibration maintains the strength of the bones. Or it could, for postmenopausal women, that would increase the density of the bones. So by itself, that's good, okay, bone health. But a breakthrough in biomedical research came about two decades ago. We now know that strong bones secrete more of a hormone called osteocalcin. And osteocalcin, secreted by the bone, gets into the bloodstream, goes through the blood-brain barrier into your brain. It would interact with a particular part of the brain called the hippocampus. That's the center for memory and stress tolerance. And the breakthrough was to discover that osteocalcin could initiate cell division in this part of the brain to create new cells for memory, new cells for suppressing stress. This is very unexpected because the rest of the brain cells they don't divide. That's the dogma. But here you can initiate cell division. And then a few years ago, the discovery was that the new cells are like super cells. The memory cells and the stress tolerant cells are bigger, more mature. They have more connections to other parts of the brain and longer dendrite nerves and things. So it's not just adding like 10%, 20%. It's just like, you play basketball, okay, and hey, I join your team. Yeah, yeah, so okay, so you have 6 guys against 5. But if LeBron James, join your team, that's so now there's a lot of clinical studies showing that people who like exercise have a very measurable increase in memory and in the ability to suppress stress and so forth. So these benefits you will not get anywhere from stronger bones to better mind brain function if you just like so and so. That's another of these things. But there are many other ones, but these are the most important differences between the original style of Tai Chi called the Chen style and everybody else.
Yeah, thank you. That's really important. As people learn, that's still mostly foreign for a lot of Western students, and they're not really sure the differences in the lineages, but then they don't understand these. This is really important for people to have this information.
Well, also, as we age, um, the fast muscle fibers are the first to go. So you don't want to go into a downward spiral and you get older and you can't move and then you don't play tennis anymore, you don't run anymore, and then you just keep losing your ability to move fast. So actually, as people age, they should do more fast exercises, particularly ones that will involve like hopping and skipping and kicking.
Yeah, and I know, so I think in the last maybe 15 years, the fascia research has come out and they really focus on this sort of like bouncing elasticity kind of movement to work with the fascia body instead of just the slow twitch muscle.
Yep, yep. There's also research coming out from Harvard that shows that stretching is actually very beneficial to preventing and mitigating back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain. And they have elucidated at the cellular and molecular level how stretching involves stretching the connective tissues. And within the connective tissues are all sorts of cells that also get stretched along the way. And the mechanical signal of stretching induce changes in them. And like there's cells that will secrete this, secrete that, that could actually be good for pain relief, for inhibiting inflammation and things like this. So again, in Chen style Tai Chi, there's a lot of stretching. Whereas the milder Yang style, the stretching is maybe there, but not quite.
Yeah, not quite. I've so this brings up a question. So we talk stretching and then we're talk like bouncing and playing. Is this just like normal? Sorry, I don't know if this is the right. Let me think of a way to say this. Like a lot of times we get into physical practices and we want to push to go further all the time. So is the benefit here just like a daily maintenance? Like if you just stretch kind of the same way every day, that's okay? Or should you always be pressing to go further? Like is there a point where it becomes detrimental?
Um, the research shows that it's like you do it or you don't do it. It's very interesting. The Harvard people went as far as taking animals and tie up, one of the 4 legs so that they can't use it, but they up around using the other 3. And after a couple of weeks, the leg that doesn't get to move gets to be painful and gets to be inflamed. So doing that immobility, like sitting too long, would create like all sorts of discomfort. And they stretch these animals, the leg that doesn't get to move, and then the pain would go away and the inflammation would go down. For prevention and maintenance. Unless you're an athlete, you want to jump higher, you want to run faster, that's a whole different story.
But in that way, I think people push and then some injuries come, and that's the exact opposite of what you're trying to
Oh,
do
okay.
here.
Yes, that, of course, like anything else, uh, just jump into, oh, I do 100 times of this, you should slowly get into it, or not. Like they say, the yoga teacher is the best friend of the chiropractor.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
It's the first time, and then, oh, you twisted your back. Tai Chi, it's you should take it easy and then build up. Yeah.
So I think something is important in Tai Chi that maybe might be missing in some of the other exercise modalities is the mind and awareness and mindfulness part that kind of brings everything into balance because we can be physically fit in an unbalanced way and our mind's pushing. We're trying to get benefits, but we're going about it the wrong way. Where Tai Chi kind of solves this for us. Is that right?
Um, yes, in a number of ways. Um, Latest research shows something very interesting. That I talked about the hippocampus, which is like the hard drive of your computer. Then your front of the right here. This is where you process and think, and figure things out. The so-called prefrontal cortex, and this is like the RAM of the computer. They show by brain imaging studies that Tai Chi practitioners have better connections between the hard drive and the RAM, between the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, significantly so. So, in other words, Tai Chi is pretty complex. You have to remember, your hand has to do this, and your mind has to do this, and your breathing has to be controlled. And then you have to think about, okay, so I'm going to do like, 40 or 70 different movements in series, or 108. Your mind is always thinking. So you have to take the memory out and use it. So that's an advantage that has been shown. Uh, if you just go to the gym and do this, you don't think about that much what you do.
So the West, we have this word embodiment that's kind of a big word these days.
Hmm.
It's kind of like mind body, but I think in these traditions, it was always there, even though there may be not a word embodiment. Could you maybe talk about that mind body connection?
Yes. Um, Mind body connection. Everybody says mind body connection. But actually, it was a body mind connection. So there are many things that will feed back. Well, like I just said, your strong bones could improve your memory. There's a study done at UC Berkeley that's really interesting. They show that muscles could actually affect the brain in a specific way. They show that if you look at a blank wall and start to smile, or be really angry or frightened, you make facial expressions. Okay. And just by doing that, even though you're looking at a blank wall, would feed back into the brain in terms of turning on the happy hormones and the stress hormones and things like that, or sweating on the hands and when you're stressed, and just by making the face, you're not looking at anything. So, uh, you know, uh, that's like uh, something people don't talk about, the body mind connection.
Yeah, that's important. I agree. That's really interesting. And so in Tai Chi, because we have to remember all these things and internal stuff and also do the movements, it's engaging the mind where we can't just be like daydreaming. Like we could be on a treadmill running and watching TV, but with Tai Chi you can't do this.
Also, there's a very interesting study at Cleveland Clinic. Okay, they actually had three groups of people. Okay, one group of people, they don't do anything. That's the control group. The second group, lifted weights and things, right? And then the third group, they sit there and pretend that they're exercising. They actually don't do anything, but they say, "Oh, I'm lifting this. Okay." In their mind, they're really like doing it, but they're not doing it. After 3 or 4 weeks, the exercise group, of course, increased strength. Okay, the imagining group increased strength by almost half of what the exercise group achieved. And the muscles didn't get any bigger, didn't get any stronger. Their brain waves measured by EEG increased tremendously. So, like whatever we do, you know, quite a significant portion of that is up here, not just here. So in Tai Chi, you have all these fancy names like parting the wild horse's mane, picking up the needle at the bottom of the sea, a white crane opening wings. Okay, well, these names are descriptive of the movement, but if you get into it, like, I'm the white crane, opening the wings. Oh, I'm the eagle. I'm the bear. Okay, you actually are training your brain as well, and there's a very well known style of qigong called the five animal frolicking qigong, the five animals. So first, you're the tiger. Wow, the tiger. Oh, I'm strong. Oh, right. And then, I'm the bird. I fly, and so forth. So when you do that sort of stuff, that's added advantage.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of actors and movement coaches who teach actors, and when people who are able to put their mind in a different, like in an animal or a different person, their movement begins to change like that thing they're imagining. So, of course, we can in Tai Chi. There's a long history of this.
Yeah. Method acting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
hmm Um, so then, okay, so then, if we can switch into acupuncture a little bit, or how
Oh,
about
mm,
the
yes.
way you see the body versus a Westerner? Because in the West, we don't have meridians, we don't have chi, we don't have any of these things that we do in the East. So, how important to this is our practice, like understanding the body
Okay.
from that
So
point of view?
in addition to that, by just finish up the
Yes,
Tai
yes,
Chi
please.
and get to that. Okay. Um, Qigong, okay, Qi is a word from 2,000 years ago, like, some energy and so forth, right? No scientific definition. And Gong is the exercise. And so Tai Chi, the way it's done, you know, regulation of mind, body, and breath, it could be considered a type of Qigong. So a very important question in our research field is, what is Qi? Okay. How can you improve qi if you don't even know how it's defined? So, um, 20 years ago, when we started our laboratory for mind body signaling, and I talk about your mind brain and energy research. So we are very interested in, what is this qi business? And within the meaning of qi, which is kind of a sensation, okay, uh, is the concept of energy. So as a biophysicist, we know how to measure energy with all sorts of instruments, the way that modern science would define energy, like light, heat, electricity. So in our laboratory, not only do we measure the health benefits that I just spoke about, like strength and speed and things like this, we want to see, if you practice Tai Chi, can you really improve your energy? Not just like lifting more weights. We have specialized instruments to measure uh, heat, light, and electricity, but we also make use of the ancient principle in Chinese medicine that blood is the mother of qi. That's in a 2,000-year-old medical text called the Yellow Emperor's Classic. Blood is the mother of qi. Well, first of all, we certainly know a lot about blood, okay? So we could use so-called laser Doppler to measure the flow of blood in the body, much like the highway patrol can see how fast your car is moving, or tennis, how fast the ball is moving. Hey, we can see how fast your red blood cells are moving. Okay, so we can measure you before, during, and after you do Tai Chi. Okay, but at the same time, we measure your energy as a flow of not just blood, but electricity. We have specialized instruments that could measure the flow of electricity in your body. Not skin level. Skin level is just skin conductance in the body. And we can show that, wow, okay, uh, blood flow and electrical flow, they go hand in hand, just like they say 2,000 years ago. Blood, the mother of qi. We also show that the energy that we could measure coming out of you as light, we actually put out photons, or biophotons, not that many, these lights, you're talking about a million photons per second. Uh, but, you know, your palm is putting out maybe 10 or 20 photons a second. So in a laboratory, we have very sensitive instruments that could measure, how much photons is coming out of your body before, during, and after you do Tai Chi and Qigong. And that's a measurable increase if you do that. Your body also puts out electrons. Again, not enough to light up a light bulb. We have very sensitive instruments to measure emission of electrons from your body. And, that emission is actually significantly higher if you practice Tai Chi and Qigong. So we can actually say that, we are not claiming that we could measure qi, but in terms of energy that is in the form that are measurable by Western scientific instruments, we can see an increase. So now, transitioning to medicine. So I said, I'm also trained in traditional Chinese medicine as well as like the Western side of things. So we then say, all right, okay, well, when you go see a traditional Chinese medical doctor, they speak a completely different language. They don't say, "Oh, you're infected," or your pancreas is not putting out enough insulin, or you got cancer growing in your lungs. They don't say that. They say that, your qi is not robust enough, or it's blocked, or imbalanced, and let's do something about that. So qi, okay. It's not flowing well in your body, and the qi, they don't just diffuse, they go through these meridians. There's a blockage, so I'm going to put a needle here and here. These are called acupuncture points in the meridians, and that would like unblock, blockage of qi. And I could like put some needles here and there, and you can improve the level of qi and so forth. Okay. But they also say, okay, they would say that, oh, your blood and qi doesn't look good, So they also get into the blood business. So in our laboratory, we use the same instruments that we use to measure effects of practicing Tai Chi and Qigong on, people who get these therapies. Acupuncture, as you just said, or just acupressure, like, putting finger pressure on the points, or moxibustion, like burning herbs close to acupuncture points, or different types of medicine, like, the stuff that the herbal medicine you take in, or topical medicine if you have a bruise or a sprain, all of these things. So in our laboratory, we show that all of these treatments can also improve your blood flow, which is not surprising, but also electrical flow as well. So, so these are hand in hand. The mind-body practices and traditional Chinese medicine. So as you probably know, a lot of these colleges of Oriental medicine, they make the students do Tai Chi and Qigong as required curriculum, part of the curriculum. So you ask me, lots of people ask, but what are acupuncture points, right? Well, first of all, you have to understand that acupuncture wasn't discovered by a Nobel laureate, okay, or a panel of experts sitting together and say, okay, let's write a book about this. It was evolved from hundreds and thousands of years ago on trial and error. And so it's like, oh wow, hey, my headache went away. Wow, let's carve this onto the wall of the cave, right? And it goes in, my stomach ache goes away. Hey, let's write this on a piece of bamboo. So, in other words, of the 300 some acupuncture points that we now know, the main ones, they, according to the World Health Organization, collectively, they could treat every known disorder short of cancer. Okay. So these points work for many different reasons. Now that research have done, it's not like, all acupoints work because of this. They just work, and they're called acupuncture points. Why they work? Research have shown they work for many different reasons. Okay, so let me give you some examples. Okay, some points are right on nerves, and this is called like the gate theory. If you stick a knife into your hand as pain, right? Okay. Uh, well, let's do something else. Okay, you walk and your knee bump into a chair. That's pain, right? What do? You mean, you instinctively rub that. Okay, why do you do that? Because instinctively, the rubbing, you activate a different set of nerves that will send signal to the brain as the bump. That pain going up to the head. These signals actually merge at your spinal cord, and the rubbing signal could block out the pain signal, so the pain signal never gets there. Did you get me? So that's one way acupuncture points could work. That if you have pain here and there, okay, you rub and then you block the pain signal from going up. Other points like that, like this point here, you stick a needle there, okay, specifically right there, okay. Through nerves, you actually stimulate synthesis of endorphins in the brain. And endorphins is your naturally secreted morphine, right? Endorphins would bind to the opiate receptors just like morphine would, and you pain. So those points are completely different from the bumping and the rubbing. Okay, different points. Another set of points are on connective tissues. So, like I said, at Harvard, they show that if you have low back pain, you stretch your low back. Okay, when you stretch the connective tissues under the skin. And there are cells called fibroblasts. They're they're in that three-dimensional matrix. They get stretched, and they secrete signals that could bind to receptors that will initiate anti-pain and anti-inflammatory response. They're completely different things from the endorphins, right? So, so I could give you, hours of lecture on acupuncture points, but I've given you like three types of acupuncture points that could work very well for you, and they're completely unrelated.
No, that's interesting. It's like a roadmap for the body. It's like a user manual for the body, like helping us understand what our body
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the roadmap is good. It's just like, you look at the roadmap of United States, right? Oh, it goes to New York. It goes to Irvine. Oh, they're very different cities. Are they all connected, right? Or, you know, some village in Nebraska. Okay, they're on the.
So maybe I can combine two questions. So you said you were testing like the bioelectricity of like Tai Chi, Qigong practitioners, and so it increases. And then same thing with acupuncture or pressure. There's um, now does I would imagine it would even increase depending upon the person's skill level.
Ah, okay. That's something that we're studying too. In pharmacology, that's called dose response. In other words, you take one pill, two pills, three pills, okay, and you want to take enough so that you have a pharmacological benefit, but over and beyond, you can overdose, right? So when we say do Tai Chi, uh, oftentimes the dose is just like, oh, 1 hour, 3 times a week, right? Well, but you just said, depends on how well you do it. Okay. If you're just looking, that doesn't work, right? You have to like really do this. Um, so that is still somewhat of a unexplored area because in clinical trials, when they have Tai Chi group and the stretching group or weight, they just say go do it 3 hours a week or something. Um, Now in our laboratory, we're using digital imaging to analyze your movement and say, oh, how far do you like bend down? How far do you do this? How can I do it? And we generate a digital skeleton that will measure the angle of your body and things like this, and try to get a dose response. So, for instance, um, picking up the needle at the bottom of the sea, well, you bend all the way down to pick up the needle. Well, what if you go halfway, one quarter way? Uh, so that's too obvious. But when we measure blood flow, well, of course, if you go all the way, you have better blood flow and better electrical flow. Uh, but now we're trying to analyze, so what about these more exotic movements, what if you just do this much, but not that much? So that's still being researched.
And I would imagine so the physical side of thing, what we just talked about, like the ability to do more, go further. And then there would also be the mind component, like a person who's been studying like a master would have more calm, focused mind, which I would imagine you would also get more out of the practice with that calm mind.
Uh, that's a whole different thing. So we put electrodes on the brain to measure brain waves. It's been known for 50 years that the brain wave pattern, whether you have so-called slow brain waves that are coming at like, a dozen waves per second, or fast ones called beta waves, alpha waves they were. So we studied people going into a meditative state, and it's pretty interesting that a person going to a meditative state would have elevation of the so-called alpha and theta waves that are indicative of a person who's really calm, really like deeply resting. But at the same time, that person would show a tremendous increase in beta waves as well. Beta waves are indicative of a person who's like deeply thinking. If you fall asleep and get into a deep sleep, like after 2 3 hours of going to bed, you would generate the so-called slow waves, the alpha and theta waves, because clearly you're resting and you're calm in a deep sleep, but you wouldn't be thinking. So your beta waves would be nothing. So from that, we can say that the meditative state is a dual state of focused relaxation. You're relaxing, but you're focusing on a single thought, which is the definition of a meditative state, that you're focusing on a single thought. So what's the significance of that? So we show that when you are meditating, you're getting rest, but how can you be thinking? It's kind of an oxymoron, right? So we measure oxygen consumption in the brain using near infrared from spectroscopy. It shows that when you get in a meditative state, your brain consumption of energy actually drops. So the conclusion is, okay, if you're just thinking about one thing, you don't really burn that much energy. It's when you're thinking, this, you don't get as much done, and you get tired more easily. So there are many studies showing that people who practice like Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation, in our laboratory, we could show that they actually score higher on what's called sustained attention response test. These are tests that we can see how well they could focus and how well they could focus for how long. And they actually score, much better than people who do Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation. So that's laboratory. But there's lots of other studies showing that students who meditate, they have higher GPA, or high school students, they score higher in their SAT score in both verbal and quantitative. So it really translates into everyday life benefits. The resting, but also training their mind to focus well and long. Of course, that's not something that the weights are just run, you don't get that.
Right. And so if we're talking, let's think about Chin style Tai Chi here for a second. Because the practitioner is moving through different positions, but they're also fast and slow.
Yes.
The meditation, so it's still meditative, even though there's more physicality.
Okay. In Chen style Tai Chi, okay, there's a mixture of training that you go through. Yes, most people think of that memorizing sequence of like 18 or 45 or 75 movements and do that in sequence. That's more for performance, okay? In terms of for health, they go to a more basic type of training. They do one movement repetitively, 20 times, 30 times. So it's very simple, like called silk reeling, like reeling in a single strand of silk without breaking it. So you just do this many, many times, and you also coordinate with breathing. So like breathe in, out, breathe in, breathe out, and you meditate by, oh, I'm standing on the sand on the beach. Hey, we're at Newport Beach right now. Okay. Oh, the waves coming onto the sand, going back out, coming in, going out. Legs are supporting me, slow but powerful because it's supporting the whole body. So that's like the waves coming in with a lot of power, going back out. But my hand is like the white foam riding on top of the waves. And that's completely relaxed. And you can, in fact, stop the white waves, white foam. You can stop the waves. And, you get into this deep thought, okay? And you do this many, many times instead of 108 different movements. So you really reinforce all the benefits, in a longer time span. But another important factor here, research at Princeton showed that repetitive movements, such as jogging, or such as like chewing, such as like just moving repetitively like this, improve serotonin in the brain. Now know serotonin is like the feel good, signals. Like, if you don't have enough, really not enough serotonin, you get into depression. Okay, and you have to take Prozac and all with all the side effects. So they found from animal studies on cats, they put electrodes into the back of the head of the cats where the serotonin neurons are. And they found that when cats, they groom themselves, wow, they do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They're not even looking in the mirror, What the heck are they doing to look better? No, they can't stop, okay? And well, why do people chew gum? 3 minutes, there's no taste, okay? NBA, right? Steph Curry. You know Steph Curry?
Yeah, of course.
The guy chews that mouthpiece incessantly. Please do that. That's to protect your teeth from getting smashed. He does that. He can control that. It's self-medication.
Mm.
Serotonin. Okay. So when you do this, do this, do this, like the cat doing this. And if you do 100 different movements one time, you don't get that benefit.
No. Okay, that's good.
Tai Chi has a whole host of like these single movements
Yeah.
that repetitively. Then they put these single movements together and then it becomes a routine.
Okay.
Has the other benefit of, oh, geez, I have to remember doing this and do this and then this and this. I have to remember. So that's a different type of training too.
That's a different type. So both of them have benefit, but they're different aspects of the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said performance. So there's also so in China they would do these performances, right? They'd go to village to village.
Look very impressive,
Yeah, yeah.
No, but I would say that the Yang style and the other styles other than Chen style, the traditional way of teaching is you just make the students remember from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and it takes like a year or half a year to remember all of that stuff. Sadly, um, that works in ancient times when people don't have all the distractions we have. Sadly, in the United States, the average American would drop out of a Tai Chi program within 3 weeks. They couldn't hack that. Oh, there's too much pressure. I too much stress. I can't remember all this stuff. And this, whereas classes where they just teach people do this week, do this 20 times. Next week, do this 20 times. People stay with those programs longer. They could immediately get the benefits. They feel they'll go back home. Hey, I feel good. Okay. My serotonin is sky high. Yeah. And serotonin also is important for sleep. Your sleep neurons contact with serotonin. So people at UCLA, they found that people do Tai Chi, they sleep better, and they're then more alert, they're less depressed, and they're less so chronic fatigue. All of these benefits are measurable.
Wonderful. So can you talk about the differences and similarities of Qigong and Tai Chi?
Yes. So I just said that Tai Chi started as martial arts. In fact, many people in China, maybe not as much here, they practice this for fighting. And all these years, recent years, the boxing champions, national boxing champions come from Tai Chi. So, a very effective way of fighting. Uh, then, like these movements are actually like a block, a block, it now becomes like, healthful. All right. Qigong, uh, instead of the 400 years of history of Tai Chi, Qigong, you can say at least 2,000 years in history. There's a piece of silk painting that was dug out of the ground from a tomb, uh, King Ma's Mound in Central China, and carbon dating is 2,000 years old. And it shows 44 figures doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this. Okay. And I actually saw that piece when it was on display, Santa Barbara Art Museum, when it was, okay. So you would say, okay, there's like people dancing, have 44 different movements. No, next to each figure are Chinese characters that we can still read. It says, if you do this, your pain will go away. If you do this, your fever would go down. If you do this, do this. And also, that painting came from the same hole that they dug up with, medical texts. So,
Like the first physical therapy.
yeah. So at least we can say 2,000 years ago, they understand that doing these movements.
Yeah. And this was called Dao Yin, right? Not Qigong.
Right. The word Qigong got used only decades ago. Back then it was Dao Yin. Dao Yin means like you lead your thought into movements,
See, right away, right off the bat, they had the original physical therapy, but the mind was included right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So from that painting,
Mhm.
you can see, oh, well, this guy looks like he's acting like a bird, Oh, yeah, this is a tiger. Oh, this is a monkey. This is a bear. So from that, um, about that time, 2,000 years ago, there's a famous Chinese doctor who developed the 5-animal frolicking qigong system, and he said, if you do the tiger like this, it's good for your liver, and if you do bird, of course, good for your lungs, and so those are ancient qigong systems. Of course, 800 years ago, the great Chinese general Yue that his army is like, they train like this. They need some, softer. So he developed the 8-section silk brocade Qigong system. And that's simple enough so that the whole army could do this. And with the Buddha Rama came to the Shaolin Temple 1400 years ago. All the monks are, big belly because they sit there all day meditating, sitting. They say, wow, that's bad. So he developed the tendon changing Qigong system where they make people do this, and wow, that's good, So Qigong has no martial arts application. And number two, it is repetitive. 8-section silk brocade. There's only 8 movements. So you do each one like 20 times rather than 100 different ones, right? 5 animals frolicking. There's only 5 animals. And each animal has maybe between 2 to 5 movements. That's it. Okay. So they're repetitive. But no uh, martial arts application. And also emphasis on the breathing side. Because Tai Chi side, fighting, pretty normally. Okay. So it's always like breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And science just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, showed that if you breathe when you're under stress, okay, you go like that, okay. That sort of breathing is mediated by special neurons in your breathing pacemaker in the brain. If you stress, you go, oh my God, oh. That's mediated by another type of neurons in the breathing pacemaker. But if you breathe slow and deep and even, okay, that's mediated yet by another type of neurons. Special neurons are directly connected to the locus coeruleus, another part of the brain that is the control center for the stress response. If you breathe slow and deep, you actually turn down the stress response. Now we know that, down to the cellular level. So the Qigong emphasizing the deep breathing, slow deep breathing, has that particular benefit emphasized. Whereas with Tai Chi, less of that emphasis.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then one other question. So I just got an acupuncture treatment yesterday.
Okay.
And I always, but um, I'm always wondering, like, is there specific practices to support my acupuncture treatment? Like, is there, so we have the meridian, so you don't hear this too much. I mean, sometimes people, and I don't know how much is made up, but maybe that's why I wanted to ask you. It's like, is there ways to use different practices to move the chi? Like, say, so let's say the kidney meridian, you have a slow kidney meridian, you want to move chi through it. So are there specific Qigongs for this? Like would a doctor give you a prescription and be like, okay, do these particular sets of movements along with the acupuncture?
Okay. So first, the acupuncture. Okay. As I told you, many acupuncture points, many meridians, do many different things. Okay. So I don't know what you have a problem or just for maintenance.
Oh no, I'm just a general question. It's just I'm trying to put these two things together to see if they go together and support one another. If that's how.
Let's say there's a patient with diabetes. All right. So in Western medicine now, uh, just injecting insulin is not the only answer. Okay. Take a pill to boost the secretion of insulin from the pancreas. You also take another pill to suppress the absorption of sugar that you eat unavoidably into the body. You take another pill to increase the passing out of sugar in the urine so that the kidney doesn't reabsorb it. You don't want to reabsorb it. So there are a whole battery of pills nowadays. Or Ozempic, okay? Ozempic makes your uh, stomach churns more slowly, so you feel full and you eat less, and you're taking in less sugar and carbohydrate. So there are a whole bunch of things that you can improve the diabetic condition. So think about that as equivalent to the Chinese doctor. Okay, so you have, they don't say diabetes, they say, oh, you have kidney yang deficiency. Okay, so a needle here, a needle here, needle here, here. So they said, why are you doing this? Oh, I'm, improving your, in fact, the pancreas function, right? And then here, I'm affecting your stomach function. So a whole set of different needles in different places to treat the whole body. Uh, so now, Qigong, okay, I just told you that the great Chinese doctor Hua Tuo 2,000 years ago developed the 5 animals frolicking Qigong. I don't know on what basis, but some bases are, obvious. So he said, to improve your liver function, you do the tiger, okay, and to improve your kidney function, you do the deer, and you want to improve your heart function, you do the monkey, and the lung function, the bird, okay. Uh, so of course, you want to improve all the functions, so you do all 5. It makes sense if you have like this a particular problem, you do that animal more. Okay, so but some of these are pretty obvious. The bird flying like this, you're breathing, improve your lung function. That's pretty obvious. And you know, kidney function. Above the kidney is the adrenal glands. And that's where your stress hormone cortisol comes in. And so if you do this and you decrease cortisol, of course that's good. So I don't know 2,000 years ago how he figured it out, but now looking back, many of these things are obvious.
Yeah, I think so. I think like back to this idea of the mind body question is like in the West we seem so disembodied, like everything's like here, take this pill, do this pill. But it seems like from these traditions, they're coming from like they're feeling these things and they're able to recognize when I do this, it affects this. Like they have a really strong awareness of the self of the body.
Well, of course, nowadays we understand so much about the placebo effect. Placebo effect it's a very, very useful healing effect. Some people say, well, it doesn't count. Okay, in clinical trial, oh, you take the sugar pill, you get well too. That's the negative way. The positive way is it makes you well. How? Because our body has so much self-healing power. When you start to believe something, you turn on your own healing power, whether you know it or not. So you heal yourself. In all of Tai Chi Qigong, if you think, oh, this will improve my liver, well, maybe, then you really get your liver going.
Yeah. Well, and you're also making a connection, right? Your mind is thinking about your liver suddenly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so then I guess what I maybe I'll re-ask the last question. So if we're moving, can do you promote moving chi through the body consciously? Are you trying to move the energy and the blood through the body? Is that part of the practice as you do these repetitive like silk reeling? Are you consciously trying to move chi and blood through the body in a particular way?
Yes, it's very simple. Okay. In Tai Chi, Qigong, once you move, the whole body moves. Okay. You don't sit down and just do this. Okay. Whole body moves. Okay. So it's obvious that in terms of improving circulation, that's good. Okay. But my final answer to your final question is again the chi business. Okay. Moving the chi. All right. Well, what do we know about electrical flow? Well, if you measure the electrical flow in your palm with the flow of electricity in physics, you understand that that will create an electrical field. So every time you have like a flow of electrons, you create an electrical field, right? So I 2 minutes ago I said I could measure your electrical flow and we could measure your electrical field using a field meter. And a healthy hand has maybe 1 to 5 units of field, okay, that we can measure. But should you accidentally cut your hand, okay, it will automatically, naturally increase, the electrical field by 50, 100 times. Our body, in terms of self-healing, wound healing, will increase the electrical field. Now, our body has lots of electrical fields from all the cells and the nerve signals and so forth. So, in fact, the electrical field has a lot to do with wound healing, among other things. So, in our laboratory, we measured, well, into Tai Chi, you increase your electrical flow and your electrical field, right? So, by how much? Well, you can measure, okay, so you can go up by 10, 20, 30 fold, right? So, but we don't want to deal with the placebo effect. So we take cells out of the body and grow them on a plate, on a piece of glass, right? So it's out of the body now. And we watch how those cells move with or without putting an electrical field on them. In this particular experiment that was done at Johns Hopkins, took a razor blade and draw a line onto this field of cells. And then there's like a gap now, right? So they have created like a model of a wound, okay? It's like you cut your hand, but here you cut the cells. Many, many cells, these are all different cells, okay? When they put the electrical field equivalent to the field that your body would generate, the cells would together. So that was a very, very important paper published in Nature, a top journal, Nature, that electrical field could enhance wound healing in a cell culture model, free placebo effect. So I could make a hand waving argument that whether you do acupuncture or acupoint massage or do Tai Chi or rub topical herbal medicine on yourself to improve blood flow, you will improve electrical flow, and maybe a little bit of a skip, you would improve wound healing because improving. And you say, well, how often do you cut your hand? Well, every night you go to sleep, there's a tremendous amount of self-repairing in the body. Okay. And you can imagine if your body has more of ability to heal itself and is aided by a higher level of like electrical field, there you go. That could be a benefit that we're just starting to understand at the molecular level and cellular level.
Wow. Okay. I feel like I knew I wanted to talk to you, and now I want to even talk more. So maybe we can do this again in the future.
Sure. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg.
I've realized that like you really have so much depth. This has been fascinating. And when you get some masters start to work with these different, I'm really interested in those studies that haven't happened yet with the different levels of practitioners. Um, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to say before we go?
I think we touch on the important things. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. 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 Nice meeting you. Bye.